The first thing Mark noticed wasn't the long line behind him or the crying toddler 2 aisles over. It was her hands. They were trembling so badly the receipt paper rattled like dry leaves in the wind. It was nearly midnight at a small grocery store off Route 41. The kind of place that smelled like overripe bananas and floor cleaner. Mark had only stopped in because his 6-year-old son, Tyler, had woken up with a fever and asked for orange juice. Like Mommy used to give me. That last part still stung. His wife had been gone for almost 2 years. But grief had a way of reopening itself in quiet moments. Long night. Mark asked gently as the cashier scanned his items. She looked up, startled, as if she'd been caught doing something wrong. She couldn't have been older than 22. Her name tag read Lena. A strand of dark hair had fallen loose from her ponytail, sticking to the sheen of sweat on her temple. "I'm fine," she said quickly. But she wasn't. Her fingers slipped. The juice carton fell sideways. She caught it just in time, forcing a shaky smile. The card reader beeped impatiently. Mark hesitated. He wasn't usually the type to pry. Raising Tyler alone had taught him how exhausting life could be without strangers adding questions to the weight. Still, something in her eyes stopped him. "Why are your hands shaking?" he asked softly. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The old country song playing through the speakers faded into the background. Lena swallowed. "My little brother is in the car," she whispered. Mark blinked. "In the car?" She nodded, her voice cracking. "He's 9. I couldn't leave him alone at home. We don't really have a home right now." The words hit him like cold water. "We've been sleeping in the car for 3 nights, she continued, as if saying it quickly would make it less real. "I just needed this shift. I needed the money for gas and maybe a motel tomorrow." He's scared of the dark. Every time someone walks past the car, he thinks. Her voice broke completely. "He thinks someone's going to hurt us." Mark felt his chest tighten. He imagined Tyler sitting alone in a dark parking lot, waiting. Speechless didn't begin to describe it. He looked past her toward the glass doors, where rain had started falling in thin silver lines. Somewhere out there, a 9-year-old boy was watching shadows move. "You left him alone?" Mark asked gently. "I locked the doors," she said quickly. "I check on him during breaks. But tonight's busy. I can't step away." Her hands trembled harder now. Mark reached for his wallet, but not for the card. "How long until your shift ends?" he asked. 2 hours. He glanced at the clock above the lottery tickets. 11:18 p.m. 2 hours in a dark parking lot felt like forever. "I'll be right back," he said quietly. Her eyes widened. "Sir, your change." "Keep it open." He stepped out into the rain, heart pounding. Not entirely sure what he was about to do, only that walking away wasn't an option. Because sometimes, being a single dad didn't just mean taking care of your own child. Sometimes, it meant recognizing someone else's was scared too. The rain was colder than Mark expected. He scanned the parking lot until he spotted an old blue sedan parked beneath a flickering light. The windows were fogged from the inside. He approached slowly, hands visible, not wanting to frighten whoever was inside. He tapped gently on the driver's side window. There was movement. A small face appeared in the backseat, wide eyes peering through the glass. "It's okay," Mark said softly through the window. "I'm a friend of your sister's." The boy hesitated before cracking the window an inch. "Are you a cop?" he asked nervously. "No," Mark replied with a faint smile. "Just a dad." The boy studied him for a long second, then unlocked the door. Up close, Mark could see he was clutching a worn-out backpack like it held everything he owned. Which, judging by the situation, it probably did. "What's your name?" Mark asked. "Eli." "Well, Eli," Mark said, kneeling so they were eye level. "How about we get you somewhere warm while your sister finishes work?" Eli's eyes darted toward the store. "She said not to talk to strangers." "She's right," Mark said. "You shouldn't. So let's fix that." He pulled out his phone and dialed the store. Inside, Lena answered breathlessly. "Lena, it's Mark, the guy with the orange juice," he said. I'm with Eli. I was thinking. There's a diner across the street. Bright lights, hot chocolate, open all night. I can sit with him there until you're done. There was silence on the other end. Then a shaky inhale. You don't have to do that. I know, he replied gently. But I want to. Another pause. Okay, she whispered. Please. 10 minutes later, Mark and Eli were seated in a red vinyl booth at the all-night diner. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, brought over a steaming mug of hot chocolate piled high with whipped cream. Eli wrapped both hands around it like it was treasure. Do you have kids? Eli asked after a moment. I do, Mark said. A son. He's home with a fever tonight. Is that why you were buying juice? Yeah. Eli nodded thoughtfully. My sister makes me tea when I'm sick. She says it fixes everything. Mark smiled, but his chest ached. He watched Eli carefully sip his drink, the tension slowly leaving his small shoulders. The boy wasn't loud or restless. He was tired in a way no child should be. Mark glanced at his phone. Nearly midnight. 2 hours ago, he'd been focused on getting home as fast as possible. Now he couldn't imagine doing anything else but sitting here. When Lena finally rushed through the diner doors at 1:07 a.m., her eyes immediately found them. Eli jumped up. Lena. She dropped to her knees and wrapped him in a fierce hug. Then she looked up at Mark, tears streaming freely. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Mark hesitated, then made a decision that surprised even himself. You can start by letting me help a little more. They sat together in the diner booth long after the coffee refills stopped coming. Lena explained everything in halting pieces. Their mom had passed away the previous year. Medical bills had swallowed what little savings they had. Their landlord had sold the building. The new owner raised the rent beyond what Lena's grocery store paycheck could cover. She'd tried shelters. Most were full. I just need time, she said quietly. Just a few weeks. Mark stared at the condensation sliding down his water glass. 2 years ago, when his wife died unexpectedly, he had felt like the ground had vanished beneath him. Friends had shown up with casseroles, with babysitting offers, with envelopes slipped quietly into his mailbox. He had survived because people refused to let him fall alone. He looked at Tyler's fever medicine sitting in the grocery bag beside him. Do you have anywhere safe to park tonight? He asked. Walmart usually doesn't tow, Lena replied. Mark shook his head slowly. No, I mean somewhere warm. With beds. Her eyes widened slightly. I can't afford a motel. I'm not talking about a motel. The words felt bold, almost reckless, but they also felt right. I have a spare room, he said. It used to be my wife's office. It's just sitting there. Lena stared at him like he'd spoken another language. I don't even know you. That's fair, Mark said gently. So here's what we'll do. You come by tomorrow morning. Meet my son. See the house. If it feels wrong, you walk away. No pressure. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they weren't just fear. Why would you do that? She whispered. Mark looked at Eli, who was leaning sleepily against his sister. Because someone once did it for me, he said simply. The next morning, Tyler met Eli and immediately insisted on showing him his superhero collection. Laughter echoed down the hallway for the first time in months. Lena stood in the kitchen, overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be forever, Mark reminded her. But sometimes, kindness doesn't ask for forever. It asks for now. Weeks turned into months. Lena found a better job. She saved. She smiled more. Eli's grades improved. Tyler stopped asking why the house felt so quiet. And one evening, as they all sat around the dinner table, Eli looked at Mark and said, You know, you asked why her hands were shaking. Mark nodded. They don't shake anymore. Mark glanced at Lena. She was laughing at something Tyler had said. Steady and strong. No, they didn't. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person noticing and refusing to look away.